Perfectionism. It's a word, it's a mindset, it's a self defeating prophecy, a fine line between having high standards and wanting the best for yourself, while also simultaneously holding yourself back and preventing you from getting to where you're meant to be in life. It's something that many of us struggle with. It's something that I struggle with even now, talking to all of you watching behind this camera. And I thought I'd take a moment to just sort of talk about how I'm working to combat my perfectionist side, particularly when it comes to doing creative work, and hopefully give you all an idea of some things you can try out, and at the very least, perhaps just get a better understanding for, if you struggle with perfectionism, where it's coming from and why. So, to kick things off, I think we should start way back when, from the very beginning. I'm gonna speak from experience here, and perhaps it'll strike a chord with those of you watching out there who may have also grew up with similar sort of circumstances. I grew up with demanding parents, to say the least. It was very early on that I believe it was instilled, or rather programmed in me, that perform equals love. Everything was about the outcome, about what you do and not who you are, right? It was, did you get an A? Did you make first chair in band or orchestra? What place did you get in Math Olympics? I think that's what it was called, or whatever. And never about how you felt or if you did your best. And when you didn't meet the expectation, the bar that was set, not even by you, but by someone else, you were met with the withholding of love. Why did you not accomplish or achieve X, Y, and Z? Right? And when you hear that, you start to internalize that it's because of you that you're getting yelled at, or you're not receiving the love that you so desperately crave as a child. And at the end of the day, we all just want to be loved. And when you start to associate love with what you do and not who you are, then everything becomes a performance. And that's exactly how it was for me. The only times I felt like I wasn't performing, I wasn't being watched or having the weight of expectation on my shoulders, was when I was alone in my room, or when I was with friends. Basically, anytime I wasn't at home. When you spend your entire life feeling like you have to perform or uphold a certain expectation, it becomes a part of who you are. And that's not something that you can shake overnight. It's quite literally programmed into your DNA, your software, your code, if you want to call it that. And it's 20 years worth of that, plus 20 plus in my case, maybe less for those of you that are younger, or even more for those of you if you are older. And it doesn't get undone overnight. I've been diligently working, especially the past 2 years, to try and rewrite my code, my programming. But man, try it as you might, there's always going to be those little sort of crumbs or residual traces that are left over. And it still shows up in my life. Far less than before, which I'm very grateful to be able to say. But it's still there. Quite literally, as I talk to you right now. In my mind, the deepest recesses of whatever's going on in here, as soon as I press record, it's like that little switch gets flicked on, just like from when I was a kid. That the camera's on, people are watching, it's time to perform, give them what they're expecting, right? And I think that's the thing, is that when it comes to perfectionism, as I've kind of mentioned and alluded to already, is that it's tied to this expectation of what one or what something should be. And when you attach the word should to anything, it implies that there's a little bit of sort of duty or obligation to that. And when that's not met, then there's guilt, there's shame, all those sorts of feelings. And when it comes to YouTube, for me, I mean, I've talked about this before, but I grew up on YouTube. Doing this, being a YouTuber, was always my dream, is my dream. And all the YouTubers I watched, they just seemed so polished, put together, well-spoken, natural, confident, charismatic on camera. And it feels like now that I'm a YouTuber and in those shoes, I have to meet those same expectations or standards that I was so accustomed to growing up. And that is not fair to myself, self-defeating, because obviously those people have years, if not decades, of experience doing just this, and I've got 9 months or so. And not to mention, right, as we do, we can cut things, we can make things appear more fluid, but when I'm recording, I have a hard time remembering all that, right? It's like, you should, again, there's that word should. You should be kind to yourself. You should, not strive for perfection. When it's so deeply ingrained in who you are, you can't help but revert back to it sometimes and just flick it on, even if just for a little moment. And in that sense, when I'm recording, gosh, you don't see the behind the scenes, but I might record or retake a 5 to 10 second clip 3 or 4 times. I kid you not, when I'm editing, I know, for better or worse, to go to the last 10-20% of the clip, because I know those were the takes that I was actually sort of content with. And I realized that a lot of this perfectionism and this sort of expectation is rooted in fear. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but fear is such a powerful driving force in our lives that we don't even realize until we actually take a moment to sit down with it. And as I've mentioned before, for me, I have this deep fear of not being enough, but not just not being enough, but not being enough to be loved. Because that's how I often felt growing up. It was always about what you did, right? The performance. If I wasn't a straight A student, if I wasn't, doing well in my career, if I wasn't working a high paying prestigious job, if I didn't have I don't know, like a great physique or whatever, then I wasn't enough, excuse me, to be wanted or loved, not just by family, but by friends or by even, I don't know, romantic interests, right? And that same sort of fear, that theme of just not being enough, it carries over into what I do when I talk to the camera. Not in the sense that I don't, I appreciate you all, but not in the sense that I'm afraid of not being loved by you all, right? Because you'd rather be, what is it? What's the quote? Would you rather be feared or loved? And I pick fear. No, I'm just kidding. But what I mean by that is there's this feeling of not wanting to disappoint. Not wanting to disappoint those of you watching who have so graciously taken the time to watch this video. And if you're still watching now, then I'll pause here and say I seriously appreciate you. But more importantly, not that you're not important, you're in the world to me, but disappoint myself. And what I mean by that is this thing that I'm doing, YouTube, it's my dream, right? And I'm not trying to sound woo-woo here, but I seriously view it as a vehicle for my purpose in life. And when you care that much about something, just like we care so much about being loved, then you're going to have a degree of fear associated with it. And in my mind, it's, gosh, if I don't deliver, if I don't perform, am I not giving it my all? Am I not proving to myself that I'm good enough to do this, or I care enough? And obviously it's not the case, and that's not running through my mind every time I turn on the camera, but there's that little voice that says that before he turns on the switch. And that's what I'm doing here, is, like I mentioned way back at the beginning of the video, I am working to quiet that voice, to unplug the switch or cut the wiring, whatever you want to call it. And the only way to do that is to face it, right? Because I can't tell you how many videos I've filmed where I literally tell myself, Dennis, don't strive to be perfect, strive to be good enough. But that goes out the window as soon as I press record. So that's why I've sort of designated this type of video as my opportunity to be imperfect, to be messy, to not be the gold standard of what a YouTuber is, or at least I perceived as. And that's what I'd encourage all of you to do as well, to define what perfect is. Your academics, your career, whatever it may be, something that you have that perfectionist or high standard in that you carry, do exactly the opposite. I guess in my case, it's not reading off a script that's been neatly combed over and dotted, only having a few bullet points to talk off of, not redoing a take multiple times just because you didn't enunciate a word properly or you didn't say utilized instead of use, and just speaking from the heart, weirdly enough. So for you, maybe it's you're going to, I don't know, you've always wanted to be a writer, but you're afraid of what people might think or what you might think if you don't meet that. So pick a time, pick a place, pick some sort of opportunity and designate that your imperfect time. Say, from the hours here to here, this location, I'm going to be imperfect. I'm going to do exactly the opposite of what I define as perfect in this area, and give yourself permission to. I think that's the whole point here, right? And whether it's, you have a private Instagram page that you post poetry to, you have a YouTube channel that you operate under a fake name, and you just use those spaces to just be imperfect, to be messy, to be yourself, and to not perform. And that's why I'm choosing to do this publicly, is to hopefully inspire some of you out there to just do something for yourself, to not let perfectionism, which in itself is been so ingrained in you by everyone but yourself, right? To throw all that out the window and just do something for yourself that you've always wanted to do, but perfectionism has held you back from doing. And hopefully, through these videos, I'll be able to minimize the perfectionist streak in me, and it'll be noticeable as I continue to make these sort of videos, which I really plan to and I'm going to commit to, as well as the other videos I make that are less this format, and just other areas of my life, right? So, with that, I want to say one final thing, and it's that you are enough. You are enough. You don't have to do anything else, but just be yourself.